What is it that you see that separates those that have wild success with coming in and achieving their health goals versus those that struggle with it?
Probably the biggest factor is consistency. It's just the willingness to do it even when it's difficult. Something is better than nothing.
What would you say to that person who thinks that they can't or anxious about being in environments they're not used to?
I've been in your shoes. It hasn't always been who I am. That hasn't been always my identity. You'll find that as long as you come in and you make that first step, you will get to where you want to be, and you'll actually start loving the process just as much as everybody else that's there.
Welcome to the Best of White Rock, where we sit down with the standout business owners, community leaders, and entrepreneurs shaping life here in White Rock and South Surrey for the better. These are their stories behind the people driving real change in our community. Hosted by me, Darren German, of the German Group.
South Surrey's best kept secret, hiding above the Sandcastle bowling alley, is Sandcastle Fitness.
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna
definitely hiding a bit.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that today because that's a little bit of a part of the story about what's going on there. But I was looking so forward, George, to having you on the show. We had such a fascinating call about getting ready for this interview, talking about your business, what you've created there, and what makes you guys different at Sandcastle Fitness than, I mean, how many options are there in South Surrey for gyms?
Quite a few.
Quite a few, yeah. Who knows, right? Like so many that nobody's probably counted yet.
There's honestly a lot. If you can count the studios, then I lost track. It's that many.
Yeah.
And then the big box gyms like ours, 20,000 roughly square feet and up, there's still at least 5 clubs.
Yeah, right. So I mean, there's so much stuff out there. So it's such a fun story and really interesting what you got going on in there. So we're going to unpack all that today. But first, I want you to introduce who you are and what you do. And I was going to say where you're from, but not necessarily where you're from, what business you're here for.
Sure. Yeah, so I'm George Shami. I'm the owner of Sandcastle Fitness and CEO for a few clubs now, one in Prince George and then Flex Fitness over on Scott Road and 72nd. And yeah, I've been in the industry my entire life pretty much since I was 19 years old. And never really looked back. I didn't think it was going to be in the industry this long. I thought I was going to do medicine, but realized that preventative medicine is just as powerful, if not more so. And so trying to focus on making sure that we keep our community healthy.
Yeah, well, and so you've owned Sandcastle Fitness now for about 7 years, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just over 7.
Okay. And how you got into the fitness world, let alone owning a gym and now CEO of multiple gyms and whatnot across the Lower Mainland. How did you even get started in that?
So originally worked at one of our competitors, again, back when I was 19.
We were joking that we weren't going to release the name of it before we started filming.
Yeah, well, it was actually, I'll mention, it was original Fitness World before it became Steve Nash, and then it became Fitness World again.
Sure.
But yeah, that's where I got my original start. And it was just what inspired me to do that was the fact that as a pretty unconfident kid. I was bullied I'd say from when I was 10 years old, at least till 13, and then decided to make a change where I was going to try to lose a bunch of weight. But that teasing and like the body insecurities kind of stayed with me for a very long time. And then eventually when I was about 17 years old, started going to the gym with my brother a bit more, and then I decided to hire a personal trainer when I was 18 to really try to break through some plateaus and push myself a little bit harder. And that's where I fell in love with this concept of getting the help or giving help when you're actually able to understand the difference between just trying to figure this out for yourself and having a roadmap provided by an expert.
So at 18 years old, you decided to hire a personal trainer.
Yes, and I paid for out of pocket, out of money that I had saved up for myself. So
well, you're also a personal trainer by trade too, right? Like that's got to be a pretty unique thing for an 18-year-old to have the wherewithal to say, there's someone who's got a path here to get me to where I want to go. What inspired you to make that phone call or reach out to even do that?
Honestly, especially being 18, very impressionable. This trainer had a great attitude, very positive, and an amazing physique. I'm like, that's exactly what I want to look like, so I should talk to him. And then I did a consultation with him. He kind of gave me a rundown on how the whole thing would work and what I should start with. And then I said, yeah, let's go ahead and let's do this. Started, I think, with like 16 sessions at the time. I couldn't really afford more than that, but I learned as much as I could in that process. And then I actually immediately enrolled in personal training school after that.
Oh, unreal. Okay. So you got into personal training school. You obviously had a really great time working out with this personal trainer, and that kind of inspired you to bring this on for your own so you could help people as well.
For sure, yeah. The transformation was pretty dramatic. Almost too dramatic. There's some things I learned along the way that have influenced the way that I actually all my trainers now work with their clients, which is more of a slow and steady approach with making sure it's more of a lifestyle change. Because that's one mistake that I was making as a trainer. I was trying to adopt that model of like, okay, got to train this person like a bodybuilder to lose weight as quickly as possibly to get them their goal efficiently. But the reality is, if it doesn't stick, what's the point? Then you're going to feel frustrated, and it's actually be even harder the second time.
Yeah, well, and I want to talk about your business philosophy in a moment, because I think that's an important piece of the story of what you do as a trainer and also as the owner that you've instilled as the values in your organization. When you were working at this last place that you were at before you decided to open your own business, what was it that stood out about the opportunity to do this for yourself rather than being under a big banner? Because big corporate banners, they can be handcuffing, right? Like you don't necessarily get to instill the way that you want to run the business. You've got to follow. There's quotas that you got to likely hit, that sort of stuff. Like what stood out to you about that kind of working under the corporate world?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of pressure around sales and hitting certain quotas, which is understandable. The company's trying to grow and every business needs to pay the bills. But what kind of got diluted is the attention to the customer service side of things.
What do you mean by that?
So when you're communicating to your management team, and at this point I was a manager already, and you're communicating to them in terms of what you're expecting, what you're driving, but you don't really talk about behaviors or the service or like how you're gonna get your clients to their goals in the best way possible, like that almost comes second as opposed to first, then that messaging really comes through all the way down into the personal trainers, because the managers sometimes aren't able to filter or haven't been trained to filter that out. And then, and myself included at that time, I was kind of still learning how to be a manager. So it became a lot about the sales as opposed to, okay, well, how do we actually make sure we're building a reputation where people are wanting to come, especially for personal training. That's so important that people are getting results. They end up inviting their friends to join them for a workout and end up having connections come up that way. How does that happen? Well, it happens through great customer service and people actually feeling appreciated, taken care of, and the results are coming.
So when you were there, you saw this opportunity for the people that were coming in, and not to put words in your mouth, but I think of almost like this herding system where you bring in as many people. And I know in getting ready for this conversation, we had talked about the general gym model in and itself is not necessarily designed to help a person like me succeed. What is it designed for?
No, so unfortunately, that's something that I wish was different about our industry is, and I won't say every business is running this way, but overall, historically, it's been a matter of as many members as possible, knowing that you're going to have a bunch of phantom members or people that just don't show up.
Right.
Because if utilization, especially when you're charging the lowest price possible, utilization, if it was full, like every single member signing up was actually coming to the gym, you'd be over capacity. So they know, and as part of their actual business model, that we need people to just pay for it and feel guilty about canceling because, oh, I gotta have the gym membership, and I'm gonna go next week, and they never end up coming.
It's like a symbolic thing almost that maybe even makes them feel better about themselves.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Versus, for where us, what we're doing is we're really making sure that, like we're planning to implement even higher level of retention strategies using artificial intelligence, where we're going to be able to flag members who maybe haven't been coming in as often as we'd like them to, and we haven't seen them, and actually reach out to them and connect with them, invite them in for a complimentary session with a trainer, try to re-inspire them with a better program, or just sit down and talk to them, ask them what obstacles they're facing, and how can we really help you, like what's going on, what's preventing you from coming in, and how can we work together to figure out a solution. And that's, I think, the biggest piece of what we do really well is we're solution oriented. We get the information from you basically telling us more or less what struggles you faced, what's going on in your life, and we're going to work with you to come up with a solution where it's actual coaching. It's not us telling you, this is the way you should be doing things. It's you telling us, this is my life, how do I make fitness work within that? And that's the biggest difference on our personal training side of things.
Yeah, but that's not normal in that industry, is it?
No, it should be. And I mean, generally speaking, the industry is shifting towards that way, but to actually get buy-in from every one of your trainers is difficult because everyone has their own method or idea of doing something, and you don't want to handcuff them and say, no, you got to do it exactly my way. But if we help them understand there's principles that work for everybody, And then within those principles, you got to find different methods that are going to work specifically for that client. So I'll give you examples. For a long time, intermittent fasting was blowing up like crazy. Everyone is doing intermittent fasting. Before that, ketogenic diet, Atkins diet. There's all these different.
And the big one now is peptides, is what you hear
Peptides now,
yeah.
So there's all these different things that people are trying to do to get results. And then the trainers are also still getting that information too, and they're trying things for themselves. Like, oh, this works. Now everyone has to do it. Well, intermittent fasting is not going to work when the person maybe is working shift or graveyard work, and now they're trying to eat in a window that they're actually going to be sleeping. Like, you got to modify things substantially for the person. At the same time, you're not going to put everybody on a bodybuilding diet, which is like 6 meals a day, when it's just not realistic for them to actually eat that many times. That's where I'm getting at. Like, every single person, you got to find what fits, what makes sense, work with them on that. And usually start with just 1 or 2 changes, not everything at once. That's another big mistake, is everybody wants to do everything at once to get the best results, but it just won't stick. It's too hard to completely change everything about your lifestyle in a matter of a couple of weeks.
Well, you had used the word habits when we were getting ready for this interview as well, and really instilling and building these good habits in people, so it's not a flash in the pan sort of thing. Like, I can eat clean for a few days in a row, but then after that that chocolate cake's looking pretty good, and oh, to hell with it. I had one bad day, I'm gonna have another bad day, and then you're done, right? Like, you've already kind of swayed off. What is it about building habits that you find helps put people in this spot where it becomes more maybe I don't know, like a lifestyle or just really part of their normal day to day, which is maybe where those changes actually come from?
For sure. So for starting off with kind of the lowest hanging fruit, like, what is it that's going to provide this person with the most impact with the least amount of effort? That's where we kind of start. Because then once you start to see a bit of results, that's motivating, and people need to see the results quickly. If they don't see the results fast enough, often there's drop off there. So that's the first thing. The second thing would be, okay, so now that we build some momentum, it's building up your willpower, where if you, again, like willpower, they say it's like a muscle that you have to train. Well, you don't want to overdo it, just like you wouldn't want to overstress a muscle and do a maximum effort workout that somebody with 10 years of experience is doing,
right,
when you're just a beginner. So same idea, you don't want to go on a very hard diet where there's zero flexibility when you're just starting off, because you're going to eventually crack. And that's when we get the binge eating happening, where finally somebody's like, okay, I got to have this cookie, and it's not one cookie, it's 20 cookies.
Yeah, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. Yeah.
And then they feel terrible, and then that might turn into 2 or 3 days of them feeling really gross, and the dopamine and everything that's impacting that. So instead, what we're trying to do is, okay, do as much as you can. If you feel like you don't really need to, avoid whatever, maybe avoid the extra sugar or whatever. But especially in social settings, if there's a birthday and you want to have a thin slice of cake, just have the slice of cake if it looks good and you want to eat it. If it's like, it's not my favorite, then pass. But again, it's just the small little changes that over time, as this person's realizing, oh, I can do this, I can actually say no here and yes here and still make progress, then automatically it becomes more of like, okay, I feel like this is normal. This is just how I eat now. And then the final step is it becoming part of identity. Now I am the type of person that can eat in small portions of things that I really like and focus on prioritizing protein, eat balanced meals. I am that type of person that goes to the gym regularly. I'm the type of person that goes on walks. When it comes finally part of your identity, then it sticks. If at no part do you feel like this is who I am, this is just what I'm doing to get results, it will never stick.
That's interesting. At what point in your journey as a personal trainer did that all start to kind of come together for you and really realize that this kind of turn and burn model was not working, and it was more about instilling these good habits in people? Like, where was that epiphany?
So I personally lost 50 pounds at one time, probably at least 5 times, maybe 6 times in my life.
Wow.
So going through that firsthand experience of, oh, why is this not sticking? Like, why am I cracking? Why am I breaking? And then fortunately we have people like Dr. Huberman, who is sharing a lot of information about like motivation and dopamine. That kind of came into play a little bit. And I've been picking up on experience and just additional certifications over the years. And I'd say the biggest one is just working with people. That finally, after I'd say somewhere about 10 to 12 years into this, I was like, okay, there's a better way to do this. This is how I'm going to approach it from now on. And then things really start to work.
Yeah, well, and that kind of brings us to where you got involved with Sandcastle Fitness. So an opportunity came up at some point, and you saw not only an opportunity to be a business owner, but you also saw an opportunity to kind of bring your belief set and your values about how to actually help these people succeed with their goals into the community of South Surrey. So unpack that for me. Like, how did that even happen?
Well, initially, I'll just go back a little bit. When I was still working at that other company, I was finding that our retention on staff was not very good. And it was a combination of like, okay, I don't feel that I'm aligned with the values of this company. Retention hasn't been good. Like, I build up these trainers and then they're not getting compensated enough to actually stay because they don't feel like it's a real career. There's that high turnover of clients too, because we haven't been really taught how to, at this point, like I didn't even know about the stuff I was just talking about with behavior change so much, which is going to help you retain clients a lot longer, actually.
Right.
Because now they understand that this is not a quick fix. This is more of a lifestyle. So all those things I'm thinking are causing a high turnover of our best trainers, where they're either going off doing their own thing or they're going in different industries. And I'm finally like, okay, this has got to stop. I got to find a better way of doing this. So my first instinct was to just leave. Didn't know at the time what was going to happen. I was just getting married. And I thought I wasn't going to share the story, but yeah, I actually asked for a 3-week vacation to go and get married and have my honeymoon. And I asked a year ahead of time. And every indicator was like, yeah, you're going to get this as long as you continue to hit your sales targets and everything like that. And halfway through this 12 months, I'm like, all right, I got to start booking stuff. Am I going to get this 3 weeks off or not? I was denied. I'm like, okay, well, I understand that this is how you run your company, no problem. You don't want to set a precedent, is what they said to me. That's fine. Even though I had hit every target you've asked me to and everything else, I'm going to be resigning. So I decided to resign. I went on a 3-month honeymoon, where actually I stayed at some like really cheap places because I didn't know how I was going to afford all this, not having a job when I came back.
Right.
But I also got to stay at some really nice places where the owners were part of the actual, they were working in the business, like working in the hotel. And I will never forget one hotel in particular where the owner made us eggs for breakfast. And I was like, that is the difference. The owner's here literally making my eggs in the morning, having a conversation with me. And he owns this hotel, which was a boutique hotel. It's not that big, but still, that's the level of service, because every single person that came into that hotel knew us by name, even if they haven't met us yet.
Wow.
So the first time I walk into this boutique hotel is in Venice. Hello, Mr. Shami. Like, how do you even know who I am? Must have had a photo of me or something on file, but they knew me by name before. When I walked in the door, the owner was there making us eggs. I'm like, this will never be away from my memory again. And when I came back, I just had to find a gym that I could replicate that in. So Sandcastle, I didn't know it was going to be the gym at that time yet, but when I came back and I was looking for places to work, I was living in White Rock now, and I just went for a workout, started talking to the members, ended up talking to somebody who's been there for a very long time, and he mentioned kind of things were pretty stagnant, and he thought the owner might, it gave me the indication that the owner's kind of checked out. And sure enough, that was the case. The owner had no real interest in running the gym. It kind of just fell into his lap. So when I reached out and I said, hey, would you be interested in actually working with me for me to take over this club? He's like, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, take it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Here's the keys.
So God is good. I was completely blessed with the opportunity, and I brought my business partner with me on board to kind of get that started. The person that was working with me at Flex at the time, where I was just private training while I got reestablished and after my whole honeymoon. And the rest is history. Now, 7 years later, we're finally, I'd say, for the most part, completely changed our reputation. We're no longer that dungeon gym that has old equipment and kind of smells or whatever, but we've reinvested hundreds of thousands of dollars into this club to make it able to offer the absolute best, including building out the clinic with Greg with Altius Health and Performance, and bringing out cutting edge technology so that we can do force plate testing. And so it's completely changed over the last 7 years, but it's definitely finally coming to the vision of what I had in mind from 7 years ago.
Yeah, well, it's such a cool transition from what you were doing previously, you know, and parallel to what you're doing now, but now becoming an owner and being able to instill your own values into the club. And I remember getting ready for this call, you had talked a lot about kind of where the club was at when you had taken it over and where it is now. And not only has it been an incredible growth for the club, but because you've instilled some of those values, which I want to talk about. You know, one of the things, like when I had said that it was like almost like a secret location in South Surrey, well, because you don't realize how big the space is until you actually go in there and check it out. And when you look at it from the road, you wouldn't even assume you've got all that room there. But not only do you have, I believe it's about 20,000 square feet.
Yes. Yeah.
Not only do you have about 20,000 square feet, but you've got multiple studios to do all these different things. You've got all these different, not add-ons is the word I'm looking for. You've got all these different
Amenities?
Yeah, all these different amenities that you offer people with these different tiers and levels of whatever they think is going to support what they need. And you've built this incredible community of people. So the growth, as an example, do you recall what it was when you first took it over?
Yeah, we had about 900 members when we first took over.
And what are you at now?
2,200.
2,200.
The biggest thing, I can't take all the credit. That is the one thing I will say.
Take all the credit.
No. That 900 members that was originally there were die-hard Sandcastle loyalists.
Okay.
They love their community. They love their gym, even though things have, they weren't necessarily in the best shape. They were kind of tired and things need to be upgraded. But they were loyal to their community. And so we just built off that because I was all about community. It's like, well, yeah, I live here. That's exactly what I'm looking for. So the values actually from day one were already aligned. And so when I went and I introduced myself to the members and let them know what the plans were, they were super excited about it. And as we started to kind of do the things that we're talking about doing, like add all these amenities like the infrared saunas, build out the studios so that it was a little bit more comprehensive, add all the new equipment, but keep the identity of like, this is a customer service first gym where we are building relationships, we're being supportive of one another, and nobody's coming here with an ego. Like people are working to help each other reach their own individual goals. But the common goal is that we're having community, and yeah, it's been a true blessing. I don't want to, that's what I'm saying. I don't want to take the credit. Is like, it was already there. We just built off of it.
Yeah. Well, you talked about the story of instilling it. It's funny when we have those moments in our life where you have something happen to you and it's one of those turning points, right? It just kind of makes you pivot and see the world in a whole new light. And it sounds like that when you were at the hotel and you had the owner downstairs making you eggs, you instilled that into the business. And I know a really important piece of what you do is when you're the business owner, not, aside from your personal training, but you want people to feel supported. You want them to feel welcome. You want them to feel like they're on their pathway to achieve their goals. And you're oftentimes right in there beside them.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. What's important that about you?
I've always been taught that, you got to walk the walk before you can talk the talk. So lead from the front. So first and foremost, demonstrate the qualities I'm looking for the staff. That's super important. So at one point I was the general manager for a very long time before we hired Milos, and he's been doing an awesome job continuing with that same kind of value system. But yeah, it was just, I'm going to be talking to the members. I'm going to be working out with them. I'm going to be taking calls and dealing with any elevated account issues myself personally. And people will know who I am, and I'll make sure they feel like it's more than, you're more than a paycheck to me.
Right.
You're actually part of this family that we've created, this gym family. So that's been a big part of it. And part of the other aspect of this that's really been successful for us is that we need to treat our staff more or less the same or even better in some ways, because if your staff don't feel like they're being taken care of like family, that you're always there for them, you're able to support them, that you're in the trenches sometimes with them, holding their hand through sometimes the hardest times in their life, then they're not going to be necessarily wanting to or able to even give their best to the members when they come in and kind of carry that forward. So we really pride ourselves on the fact that our staff are all career oriented for the most part. We have some students that are part of our, they're doing it as a part-time job, but even them, they want to be in fitness long-term, whether it's as a physiotherapist or whatever. And so we plan to work with them all the way through their school and eventually become part of our clinic team, whatever it is.
Wow.
But when you have those people that really care, they're passionate about fitness, this is what they do, they trust their leadership, they see the values, and they're able to push that forward over to the members. That's really, I think, our biggest differentiating factor is like the service is going to be top notch.
Well, there's a saying in business where happy staff equals happy customers. And when they feel supported and empowered to run their personal training philosophies and also know the greater goal is to build these habits and instill these great day-to-day routines in with people so they can actually start seeing those results, and they've got a supportive work environment and a boss that's supportive and wants them to succeed, that changes everything for them. And then they show up happy, they show up energized, they show up wanting to give that energy back to the people that are showing up at the gym. Hence why you've gone from 900 to 2200. That's incredible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's hugely important, is just them, like you said, feeling supported, feeling like they're valued. And haven't always done the best job of this sometimes, because that's been, I think, the biggest hurdle is growing, but still keeping that identity. So as we've gone from 1 club to 2 clubs to 3 clubs, it's like, how do you continue to oversee more, but still have those be involved enough where your staff feel like they're still taken care of, that they can continue to push that forward? And that's been a growing opportunity and learning moment. But I'd say the number one thing that helps with that is just making sure your leadership, so the managers, have the same values as we do as owners.
Yeah, you nailed it. Like people want George. When you really think about what that means, is they want what George stands for, and they want the values that George embodies, and they want the knowledge that George has. And you as a leader can choose to help those people, and you can also choose to instill that in the people that work for you. And when people come to your fitness club and they're able to sit down with your staff, and it's just like sitting there with George, and I get all the great pieces of George, and I get to meet this cool new person, and I get to know George, because you're in there working out beside people and chatting with them about their goals and stuff as you go through your day-to-day, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and like, what a neat environment to be able to go work out rather than just go show up for the gym that costs $15 a month, and they're kind of planning on 97% of the people not showing up, because that's how the business model works, and that's okay. That's a business model, and no shade against them, but you're really here to build long-term success for the people that you're helping.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just love that. And I know one of the important things to you too is to be local and be and thrive in the community that you believe in. What's important to you about that?
Like, I live here, number one. So for me to basically go out in my community and be recognized, for example, because I am so involved with the members sometimes, I don't want them to be angry with me. Like, oh, you jerk, I canceled my membership and you kept charging me. Like, for example, that happens at a lot of gyms, unfortunately. But yeah, that's not something I want to have. So instead, I want to have the opposite. It's like, for example, my oldest son is going to be going to White Rock Christian Academy, which is just across the street from us. And we already are trying to be involved with them, with whether it's Star of the Sea, Peace Arch Hospital, just giving back in terms of just going to the community events, maybe even giving donations. Like, for example, we'll have a transformation package that we'll go donate to a silent auction. We'll go out in the community, talk to our neighbors, neighboring businesses, ask them what they're struggling with or what they could improve on if they need more advertising, for example. We're all in the same space. What if we work together, have you come to an open house? For example, we had the Indian guys at open house when they first came and opened their store across the street from us, just so that they can get some advertising. At the same time, it's awesome for our members because they get some free food that's tasty, and now they know about it and they're going there as customers, and it's helping support their goals. So there's all the different ways you can build a sense of community, but it's important because I live here is number one, but even if it's not me, even if it's our managers like Jag, Milos, and Luke, the 3 general managers, they live in their communities, and so they have exactly the same mindset. Jag's doing the exact same thing I'm talking about with his community and building those relationships, and so is Luke in Prince George. And so even though, like I said before, it's not necessarily me all the time anymore, that's never going to stop. That's a part of our identity, is like we're locally locally owned and operated in BC for sure. And then the management is empowered almost like as if they're managing partners, honestly, where they have a lot of autonomy, they have a lot of freedom to kind of do what they want to do and connect with who they want to connect with, build those relationships. It's like, yeah, we're partners in this. Go ahead, do it.
Yeah, I love that. Well, you know, your compass in terms of what you're building there, what you built there is maybe a better way of saying it, but what you built and the values that you guys stand for, and then just, you know, sprinkling in on top of this that like the community support, because you don't have to do that stuff. There's lots of businesses, in fact, that don't, right? And just having that conviction that that's the right thing to do, that's a way that supports the community, that supports your members, and you know what? It's great for business. You talked about, you know, getting recognized in public. You're a recognizable guy. You know, we were joking when you walked in. I said, you're gonna have to put in a coat. You're gonna make me look too skinny. Right, but you know, people are gonna know you, but that you know, that carries out across the community, and people talk about it. You know, we talk about getting introductions when people come into your gym, and you know, the best word of mouth advertising is the absolute gold standard. It's the best you can do. You can put bus benches. I mean, I'm in real estate. There's bus benches up of every single realtor, you know, all over town, sort of thing, or I could give people something to talk about in such a good way that they want to tell all their friends about that. And that's really how you built your business too, is
Absolutely.
You want people talking about you guys and saying, you got to come out and check out Sandcastle Fitness. I worked out there when I was in my early 20s. And from what you've built to where it was when I was in my early 20s is night and day. It's incredible.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, one thing you made me think of is, I guess it comes back from that personal training mindset where at one point in time, just my existing clientele was enough, and that's all I needed. To say that as long as we're working towards new goals, we're hitting those goals and continue to get better and better, the ones that eventually no longer need me as much, 10 out of 10 times they're going to be bringing their mom, their dad, their sister, their cousin, their friend to come and work with me because I'm treating them right and we're actually making progress, we're doing something right. So we brought that same line of thinking into the business where it's like, just treat your people really well, they'll build a business for you. It's not like to say that we don't do things like market ourselves, like on the bus benches or whatever, but honestly, if you just want to maintain your business as a full-time personal trainer at Sandcastle, and all our full-time trainers do this, they just have constant network of people coming in that want to work with them, and same thing with a gym. If we were like, okay, perfectly happy to cap it here, turn off the advertising at this point, and it would continue to run and continue to be successful just based off keeping the people happy and them bringing their friends in.
Yeah, that's so important that people are feeling that support and the energy that you've created there to just create an environment where they can go flourish and thrive. And now I want to ask you, I want you to put your personal trainer hat on here. We're going to take off the business owner hat and all the amazing things that you built. What are some of the biggest misconceptions that people have about working with a personal trainer?
There's probably a few. One is, I kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, which is that they think that when they come in, they're going to be given specific instructions on everything. And it's not to say that they're not going to, but example of that would be like, okay, so rather than giving you a full-blown meal plan with specifics plus a very hard workout, maybe one that looks like it's designed for a pro-level bodybuilder from day one, it's going to be, again, very catered towards you and what your needs are. Second thing that people don't really realize is they shouldn't be in pain. So any trainer tells you, oh, just push, no pain, no gain, that's insanity. Yes, there's going to be discomfort, but you shouldn't feel your lower back hurting, for example, or a weird burning, or your shoulder. Yeah. So what we do a little bit differently, and it's often not recognized, people don't think about it, is we do a full body movement assessment and functional movement screen, where we're looking at how does this person actually move, and then we're almost taking on the lens of like, most of our trainers are kinesiologists, where they're looking at the movement pattern, finding out where this person is susceptible to injury, and correcting that first before they even start lifting heavy weights. Oh. So we build that foundation first, which is super, super important. People often want to jump and run before they even learn how to walk, and so we got to really focus on building that foundation. Another misconception is just that it's going to happen a lot faster than they think it is.
Okay.
When they're working with a trainer.
Sure.
Or even when they're working on their own. And you know, the tortoise and the hare, it's a very cliche and tired story, but it's very true. It's like if you slow and steady, people often don't appreciate the journey that they're actually on. They just care about the result. And if you only focus on the result, when you get there, you often don't even maintain it because you haven't learned to enjoy the things that brought you there. So one thing that they don't really think is going to happen is they're actually going to fall in love with training. If the trainer's doing their job and sharing their passion in the right way and finding something that this person can actually do and like to do, this new member of ours that's started personal training is going to actually love working out on their own. And if they don't, we haven't done our job, as far as I'm concerned. So that's something that I think a lot of people don't realize is like, no, you're actually going to enjoy this.
Yeah, well, I love what you say. You know, we focus so much on the destination, but we forget that we need to get there, and the journey can be just as enjoyable. And that's where we were talking about those habits and whatnot that comes in there as well. Now, what about some of the things like I'm too old? You know, because it's not always like you guys don't just train for like bodybuilding. There's lots of things you train for. It's maybe to lose weight. It's maybe to feel better in your body. It's maybe to tone up. Maybe it's to you lose a little bit of weight. Anything it could be.
Yeah, I gotta find the actual number, but the average age of our client is somewhere around 50 years old. We have a lot of seniors who are training 70s and even their 80s, and starting in their 70s and 80s. So it's not just for somebody. Like, especially lifting heavy weights is not just for somebody who's young. You look at the benefits for osteoporosis, and in fact, the number one predictor of longevity and health span, like how long and how healthy you're going to be in the long term, is how much muscle mass you have. So if you're not lifting heavy weights enough, at least to build a bit of muscle and preserve muscle mass, then your all-cause mortality, so every different way you could be ending up, unfortunately, having an early exit of this world, is much higher. So yeah, we have lots of seniors that are coming in their 70s and 80s that are lifting weights, and they're actually getting stronger and they're building some muscle, and they thought it's too late for me. Well, it's never too late. That actually is true. Can share a bunch of different stories of different clients, but yeah, I'd say that your mindset and your belief is more important than anything. I had one client in particular. It's not necessarily a case of somebody just older, but he was written off by the doctors after he fell off the roof of his house. Wow. And he fractured his, it's a burst fracture of his T12 vertebra. So they're saying, yeah, you're paralyzed, basically, you're not going to walk. This guy's willpower was incredible. So he's like, no, I'm going to walk again. Eventually he got on his own with the help of physios in the hospital, got to a point where he was able to walk on crutches and had feeling in one of his legs. And that's when he came to me. And at this stage in my career, this was early on actually, I'm like, okay, well, I'm not sure if I can really do a lot, but I'll do my best and we'll work with you and we'll try different things, we'll experiment. And he came in every day with me 2 to 3 times a week and a lot on his own. And we just worked at whatever function he had and tried to improve on that every single day. And I was so proud of him because at one point he started feeling his left leg again. And he was walking without crutches after 6 months. Wow. And his doctors, like I said he wouldn't even walk. So for him to, again, mostly do this on his own because of his own mindset. Yes, there were some things that we tried that were obviously having results. But like that's the attitude that hopefully everyone will come in with. It's like, I can do this. If you just believe in yourself, we have the skill set and the knowledge to help you. You have to have the belief.
Yeah. What is it that you see that separates those that have wild success with coming in and achieving their health goals versus those that struggle with it? What's the differentiator?
Probably the biggest factor is consistency. It's just the willingness to do it even when it's difficult. A lot of people are motivated when, let's say, work is a little bit slower or the kids are in the regular routines, but then as soon as life gets a bit more difficult, somebody, I don't know, whatever it might be, somebody getting sick or somebody's just not feeling their best or their workload has doubled at work, whatever might happen, it's, okay, well, you know what? I can't come to the gym this week 5 days a week, but I can still come in at least twice. I can still do what I can, and they're consistent on the effort. Those are the ones that make it long term. They're the ones that say something is better than nothing. If you have that kind of attitude, usually you'll be totally fine. Versus the ones that don't usually end up reaching their goals, or at least maintaining their goals. I don't say sometimes they reach it, but they just won't maintain it, is the person that's all or nothing.
Right.
That all or nothing approach, it's gotta die.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to your health and fitness. This is, I'm saying this multiple times already, but it's gotta be part of your DNA and your identity.
Yeah. It's kind of like chasing the horizon almost, right? Like there's no I've made it. Right?
Yes.
Even when you maybe build the physique or achieve the health goal that you want, it's not static. You don't live there, right? You've got to work towards maintenance. You've got to work towards continuing to keep it where you want it. Otherwise, you will lose it. And if you don't build that consistency, those habits that you've been talking about, it will go away.
For sure.
Right? Like for somebody that does bodybuilding as an example, if you didn't pick up weights for the next year and choose to eat the way that you do, what would happen?
I would look like I did
Right?
Yeah, and you know, one thing actually that a lot of people don't think about is the mental health aspect.
Okay.
Studies are showing that exercising even just twice a week for an hour is more effective than antidepressants for your mental health and just overall feeling or well-being. And so that's one thing you can actually get addicted to as well. The endorphins, like the runner's high, for example, it's not just with running, it's exercises in general. So if you have somebody who just learns to like enjoy the process and like, okay, this feels good. Like I've never had anyone come to the gym and they left and they said they felt worse mentally after doing that. Everybody feels like, yeah, I'm glad I did it. So you start to, again, enjoy that. And then the people that last the longest, like we're talking about, those are the ones that, if I didn't go to the gym this week, I would feel it mentally.
Right.
Like it would actually like crush me in that sense.
Right.
Now, you can get sick and you could avoid a week of the gym, or you could just take a week for recovery, but that's like a exception, not the rule. It's got to be when you can go, you go.
Yeah, I love that. You know, there's somebody listening to this or watching this right now, and they're thinking, I feel like they're speaking to me. What would you say to that person who thinks that they can't, or maybe they're hesitant to come visit because they're anxious about being in environments they're not used to? What would you say to that person who's listening right now, who's thinking, Sandcastle Fitness seems like a really cool kind of family environment, very supportive, going to help me achieve my goals. I get to meet great people like George and his employees, and they've got this value and belief system that's incredible. What would you say?
I feel where you're coming from because I've been in your shoes. Literally frustration from, man, am I ever going to keep this weight off? If I am going to be super consistent with this? This hasn't always been who I am. That hasn't been always my identity. So to you, I'd say just, like what we found is just you make that first step, you just try. And as long as you have the right support network, and even our most advanced clients, our members that are very strong, very fit, those are generally usually the friendliest ones that want to help you the most. And they only look intimidating, but they're big, soft teddy bears, honestly. So you'll find that as long as you come in and you make that first step, you will get to where you want to be, and you'll actually, again, start loving the process just as much as everybody else that's there. You'll either end up initially falling in love with the community, or you'll fall in love with the results, or you'll fall in love with the process, but hopefully all of it, but probably at different stages. And then you'll get hooked like everybody else. And at least you'll be hooked to something that's healthy.
Right, yeah, better than the alternatives out there. Oh, that's great. Well, George, we're so lucky to have you in the South Surrey community. You've helped so many people in the community. I mean, it shows just on the growth of what you've done with the business since you've been the owner. And I know that anybody that has been involved with it just speaks so highly of the culture and the environment that you've been able to create there. And I'm going to implore anybody that's listening to this or watching this to come pay you guys a visit, come check it out, come see what the difference is by being in a supportive environment. And there's people that really actually care about where your final destination. Well, I shouldn't say final destination. That sounds a little morbid. But getting your fitness goals and that health either achieved or back or whatever that might be. So I want to thank you so much for being on the Best of White Rock, and wish you lots of success in your future business.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, take care.